Hi, girls.
I'm
Hey,
not well.
I
Oh,
know
for goodness sake, enough
you
of
need to
that.
tuck up in bed, darling, with your doggies.
Oh,
I
listen,
know.
please.
That's what you
How many weeks has
do.
this been going on, Debbie? Is
Three.
it your acting, or are you actually not well?
Oh, we didn't know
I'm
that
quite
good.
convinced. It's the first time I'm convinced. Go on.
Oh, who's coming in today? Who's flying
Oh,
in?
a lovely, lovely, lovely person, lovely friend, Anthea Turner.
Ah, oh,
Welcome
We
to
were
our
just
it's
nest,
talking
lovely.
darling.
about that
It's
actually.
lovely
We're
to
just saying
fly.
that I look like an elf, they said, Anthea.
No, actually, it's you and Harriet together. You look a bit elfish.
We're looking festive, darling. We're just in festive colours. That's
Yes,
all.
exactly.
Exactly. We've got
Darling,
the
how are
lights went
you?
on the King's Road at the weekend and
As
gorgeous.
you do.
You look
Gone on
gorgeous.
everywhere.
You look gorgeous. Auntie, I must ask you. Uh, I'm not well. I've been all over the place, but I'm
No
not well.
problem. Yeah.
You've got one as well, have you?
Yeah. Well, I'm on the tail end of it now.
How long have you had yours for?
Oh, it's probably this is probably the 5 days, I think. Five,
Oh,
five
wait.
days. But just like not ill. Just it's a cold. But the problem is, of course, whenever anything happens, you go, oh my God, I've got COVID, I've got COVID. No, of course.
Yes.
And it's just a cold. Like we've always had colds. Like
But this isn't just a cold. If this is the same as what we've all had, except for Harriet, of course, because
oh, I
she's
haven't had
yes.
it. I haven't had
I had
COVID.
it for
No,
months and
Dee had
months.
it. It
Yeah,
starts like that, and it goes, and it goes, and it comes
yeah,
back, and it goes, and it comes back, and this is the third
exactly.
week.
Debbie's cold is an Oscar-winning performance, so it's been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks. Just
Yeah.
saying.
You know they say man flu. Well, it's Debbie flu, actually.
There you go.
It's a whole little soap opera all of its own.
Yes, it is, and I've been
It really
away, and
is.
I've been busy, and I haven't been here, and I haven't been able to speak to her. Now I'm back. All right,
Yeah,
I'm finished moaning
absolutely.
now.
I think I
Your
preferred
hair,
it when she had a cold, actually.
thank you. Your hair always looks gorgeous, Anthea. Do
Well,
you
let
do
me
it yourself?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. I think I would take on a hairdresser when it comes to good old-fashioned blow drying, not using hot irons, not using straighteners, just a barrel brush and a hairdryer. That's it.
Wow.
Wow.
And that's the way to get the lift. Because you can't do
Yeah.
it with all these implements they try and sell you. That I don't know, there's a brush with a hot brush and all of these things. You can't get the pull on those, and you can't get the heat and the pull to get there. Shoom.
Yes,
How
yes.
do you do the back?
I don't know. I mean, it's because it's layered, so I would do that. I have to get a hairdryer. I could show you, but but I get a it's a barrel brush, over, then
And you
blow on
and
the
you do
bit,
and you do it and you do it forward or backwards?
and then I don't know what I
Barrel
do.
brush,
I
just an
I
egg.
do
Oh,
I do a
Harriet's
lot
got a
of
brush.
moving around, and then it goes under. Then I've got the hair. I could go and get you my hairdryer. I could give you a
Got your
quick.
hairbrush here. Here's a barrel
I
brush.
would I
Yes,
would like a
please.
tutorial, please, Anthea,
Yes, please, Anthea.
because
We need.
your hair always looks amazing.
It
And
does.
But
It's
it
true.
is
Whole other
natural.
show, darling, when you
It's
can do
not.
a how-to barrel brush.
I've done it. It's on YouTube.
Oh,
And yeah, it is
it's
on
already there.
YouTube.
oh,
Yeah, I did it. I did it because the I think the reason it works on this particular hair is because it is naturally curly. So it's Harriet's type. If Harriet had her hair short or shorter,
Mhm.
you will always have bounce curl. You can make
Mm.
it go curly. You
Or
can
straight.
get it wavy. Or you blow dry it out. So yours would blow dry out like this.
mine's the
quite
same. Mine's
easily.
curly. Mine's
Yeah,
curly too.
curly,
Yeah,
curly.
yeah.
And so that's why it does it. You can't really do, if you've got straight hair, it won't do it.
Yes.
No,
But as we know,
Darling,
curly hair, everybody says, "Oh, curly hair, that's really easy. How lovely!" But you don't grow up. You grow up. You don't wake up with all your curly hair all in place. You wake up looking like Wurzel Gummidge.
what's the latest in your fabulous world?
Well, what have I been doing? I do know when somebody says I do stuff. I've been carrying on doing I do quite a lot of commercial things, and I think that's really come off the back of Instagram. So I do, I've been working for the shop vacuum cleaners, talking about cleaning. I can honestly say I did 3 little series of Perfect Housewife, and that has looked after me probably more than so many other jobs that I've done, because of how you can monetize that particular area of your life in a way that and it's business. We all have, and I know there's some sites sometimes some crazy idea that people who do our job, I don't know, you either don't have to work or you don't need to work, but of course actually we all do. So I do quite a lot of commercial work in that, which I really love, and a lot of writing about it, because obviously I'm slightly obsessed. Not in that sort of new genre, which is that more sort of, Mrs. Hinch and the Queen of Clean and all of that. No, probably in a far more practical sort of level. So I do a lot of that. I've just done a funny thing for Netflix where I built Buckingham Palace out of cardboard boxes. It was to support obviously the new series of The Crown, 5th series of The Crown. And that's also on YouTube. And it's me doing, as I did with Tracy Island, but it's very tongue-in-cheek and quite funny. Me making a palace out of wine boxes, actually, funnily enough, which
well, of course.
I seem to have drunk most of it by the time I got to the end of the recording.
Do you know, Anthea, I've got to tell you, going back to your housework and stuff, you've really taught me how to put a duvet cover on, and I still do it like that.
Good.
And I stand on the bed and shake it. But I mean, I used to it was a nightmare. It would take me about a week to do it. But I can now do it in at least 5 minutes now.
Can I ask you, Anthea? Because nowadays we're not just defined as a housewife. I mean, I have my house, and I brought my children up on my own, and I've always done the cleaning. Occasionally had a bit of help, but mostly it's me. But I'm not a housewife. So how are we, because that's so, isn't it? It's the past, that's the 50s, early 60s. Now we're liberated working women who work all the time and keep the house clean because there's no one else to do it. So how do we define ourselves now? Because we're not just the perfect housewife.
No. And you remember that we actually chose that title to get people watching, because back in those days, and I'm only talking the early 90s, mid-90s, we just needed a title on the drop down that was going to grab people's attention. And I must admit, there were so many titles for that program, and it was a guy called Grant Mansfield, very, very bright at RDF, and he said, we're going to call it, he actually brought me into his office and said, you're not going to like this, but we're going to call it Anthea Turner Perfect Housewife. And I said, are you joking? I'm going to get mullered for that. I can't go anywhere near that title. He said, well, on the, and it never occurred to me, but on the Sky drop down, people scroll. People are just looking for something to watch. Oh, what is there? And you see a sexy title or an interesting title or a title that's going to annoy you, or a name like mine that could possibly annoy you. and therefore, let's just watch that. And then, of course, people watched it and realized that there was humor involved. It was a bit tongue-in-cheek because, who is the perfect housewife? And then I think people sort of forgot the title and just saw the humor in it and loved the take-home that was in the program, because it was a bit of a competition, which we always needed in those days. And then there was all the take-home little tips and things, which everybody loved. So I think I don't even think then, you are right. It was that whole sort of 50s when genuinely, my mum was a teacher. She had some children and she decided not to work, and she became a housewife. I think she was one of those people, though, who actually owned the title, because there are lots of people who are stay-at-home mums and look after the home. And I remember distinctly sitting. Oh, in fact, she was the first contestant on Perfect Housewife. And I sat talking to her in a lunch break, and she said, I'm not really a housewife, she said. I worked in marketing, and she went on to tell me everything that she'd done in marketing. And I said, oh, and when did you last do that? She said, well, I left marketing when my daughter was born, and her daughter was 5. I said, oh, when are you going to go back to it? Well, probably when my son goes to school. I said, well, he's not going to go to school really for another couple of years. So basically, you've had 7 years pretending to do something that you're not actually doing, and you might not go back to because you're embarrassed to say to anybody, actually, I'm a housewife at the moment, I'm looking after my kids, and I'm really good at it. And she couldn't quite get that into her head. And I think actually for people who want to do that, I know there are, lots of, and I've always been the art job juggler, that's actually quite sad that society has made people feel bad for doing that.
I think you're so right.
Yes.
And I think if you're a stay-at-home mum and you want to bring up your children, that is absolutely valid. Absolutely, it's the wife bit that we're not a person in our own right. We're somebody else's property. A housewife. A house person. And it's like, naff off. We are wonderful mothers at home holding the whole thing together. That's what it is. Bringing up kids. It's the housewife. Like we're little perfect. Somebody else's. No, naff off.
No, that obviously is an illusion. I think.
Yeah, and can I just say, girls, that I think being a mum is the hardest bloody job ever. And we should all be paid a fortune for it. And I know that in France you get a special benefit for it. And I think, it's really undervalued as well, because I think going to work was an escape for me, after looking after my daughter, because it would be so difficult, especially the terrible twos and all that sort of thing. And I think we have to value that as well.
Yeah, and it is probably one of those undervalued areas. And when you look around at society and what's going on now with families, a very dear friend of mine runs 53 academies. There's a guy called Stephen Chalk from a charity that I work with called Oasis. And one of their biggest problems is the fact that of the breakdown of the structure of the family home and the state that the children are arriving to school in, because that has completely and utterly fallen apart. And school is their salvation. School is where they not only learn what we're supposed to learn at school, but actually start to learn about life. And the thought really that, and I know there'll be many people who would say, oh yeah, well, you go to school to do, to learn reading, writing and arithmetic. Actually, sadly now schools need to do home economics, they need to do sewing, they need to do lots and lots of practical things, and unfortunately still in schools, and I think it's up to the school, but they are still not subjects which of course are honed down on. And I think really there should be a little seismic shift, that children go to school to be rounded in not only education, but also life and living. Because now we're in a situation where there are unfortunately a lot of people who have never been taught, and I'm not blaming them at all, they don't know how to cook from scratch, don't know how to make the best of food. And food is at a premium now, everything's at a premium, and we've got to get back to that.
I did have home economics though, Anthea, but I burnt the kitchen down at the school.
Why am I not surprised?
What was the first thing in home economics that you learned how to make?
Scones.
Yeah, I say scone because obviously I come from the Midlands.
Hey, and I
let you get away with that one. Mine was a Scotch egg. Mine was a Scotch egg.
Scotch egg.
Yeah, I don't know why a Scotch egg seemed a really important thing to be able to make, but my teacher taught me how to make a Scotch egg.
Nice choice.
Scones.
Nice.
But I think I really agree with you about kids, and I think it's so sad because there are no families left. Not really. Everybody, even with little young kids, people are just splitting up all over the place, which they've always have done, I suppose. But it just feels, and it's so much more.
Well, obviously, I'm going to say this because I was partly responsible for bringing up 3 little girls from a split family. But in actual fact, they, as far as their life skills and emotionally, I would like to think that, it was Lily's wedding not last weekend, the weekend before, and we were all there together as a unit. everybody who was responsible for bringing those children up. And boy, are they amazing, very, very well-rounded, worldly wise young ladies. But then again, it was up to all the adults around them to make sure that that happened.
You really have looked after the kids, haven't you? And I know that you still, I think, was one of them living with you until recently?
Oh, they all come back when they want to save a bit of money.
Yes. Fantastic.
No, Claudia, actually, when Grant and I split up, her words in the kitchen were, right, okay, where are we going to live?
Oh.
Hey, don't you worry, I'll have all this sorted. So no, Claudia was with me for a long time, and now she's doing what all kids do.
I think there is no such thing as a perfect family. People are bringing up children for all sorts of different reasons on their own. And I also think sometimes that gives them not less skills, but can sometimes give them more skills, because they realize life isn't perfect. Not that one doesn't want to give them a fairy tale, proposition of life. But my daughter is an amazing cook because she learned to cook, because I was doing shows in the evening. And although I was up at the crack of dawn, school run, all of that stuff, there are other things. You learn self-reliance and you learn choice in life, and you don't have to just accept everything. So I think there's no such thing as an ordinary family. No. Everybody is different. So it's an amalgamation of care and understanding, and, as you say, a unit that will love the children, however disparate it may be. That's what's important.
Yeah, we just had Emmanuel Kelly on the show on Tuesday, and what was very, very interesting was that he was found in a box on a beach in Iraq, and he's lost his limbs and everything, and his mother came from Australia to the orphanage, and she took him back to Australia, and he's now a very big star. He works with some of the biggest stars, and he's fantastic. But what he was saying all the time, it's all about nurture and not about nature.
Love.
Yeah. He said, because he said it's love. Love transcends. Love. There's one thing thicker than blood is love, and that will get you through anything. And he said, because my natural thing, coming from Iraq, I'm this sort of person. I have that in my blood. But what I have got is what I've been taught by someone who loved me, and I think that's the bottom line.
Yeah, and she's adopted so many others as well. So he's got a lot of siblings, and he said that she just gives out love, and it's just such a powerful thing. And I believe that, the vibration of love is fantastic. It's so high.
It is. But to send your children out into the world as well-rounded individuals, but also the children that you see who've come out into the world thinking it's all Enid Blyton, unfortunately, have a horrible wake-up call. So I'm the first one to say that I think you need to, and you always need to talk to them. Some people, you think you're not talking to your children and explaining things, and they will understand, and not shielding them from so many matters of family life. I know the girls obviously had to grow up quite quickly with various things that happened to them, but I don't think it's harmed them, actually.
But how wonderful to all be together for that wedding. That's so
and we had Amelia's wedding in July. We had that one in just a couple of weeks ago. So it was really lovely, and it was very nice.
Fabulous. So, darling, what do you want to do next?
What do I want to do next?
Yes.
I wait, the universe drops things into my lap.
Yes.
The universe to do that. I asked the parking fairy to get me parking places.
It works,
The universe
it does
bring me treats in, and the universe does tend to provide on the whole. I must admit, I don't think there's ever been a better time to do, and it wouldn't be called, of course, Perfect Housewife, but I do think that there is a space now to start to look at just life skills, just living, just normal living life skills, that where we learn that soap and water doesn't cost anything, because especially when you're, as you will know, Harriet, when you are a mum on your own, you have to be ridiculously organized to be able to spin all those plates. And if you're not, they're falling off all over the place. And I worry that those those life skills are not being discussed, and it's more.
So would your new program be survival life skills,
no, I think it's
something
more,
like that?
But yes, you know that
and also
SAS program. I think this is SAS for homes.
Yes.
Or AKA in tiny little letters, the perfect housewife.
No, never have housewife.
No.
Housewife.
That sort of that was when I explained the reason that we put it, because it got noticed.
Yeah,
on BBC Three, boy, did it get noticed.
Yeah, of course.
We're all talking about it, so it's worked.
House skill survival would be a really good thing, because half the time, when your plugs get blocked, or when you don't know how to, there's something you can't get out of the carpet or whatever, house skill survival would be fantastic.
Oh my goodness me! I went over to Claudia and her little friend. They've got, in fact, I can just about see where their flat is from here across the river. And I don't like too far away. And it was all, and they just moved in, and the plug was blocked in one of the bathrooms. What shall we do about it? Are we going to have to get somebody in to do this? What shall I do? Shall we ring the landlord? And I said, hold on a second. And I gave them a lesson on unscrewing the bottom of the plastic, finding what was in. They bought all these solutions. They bought unblocker. No. You don't want to put unblocker down. There are plastic seals here. It'll rot them.
Yeah.
Just let's undo it. I pulled out hair and
there you go.
It's the top of a toothbrush. Anyway, there you go. Those things like that. That.
Yeah. Now, of course. I mean, years ago, people did not want to go into charity shops. They did not want to get anything secondhand. They wanted to buy everything new. It was all about newness. And now that's really, really changing.
Oh,
and I love that with such websites like Vinted, which I adore, because there's fantastic clothes that have only been worn once and you can pick up for nothing.
Yes, I like the charity shops where you can go. I always find cooking things in charity shops, implements.
Ooh,
yes. And I do. I still like, and I appreciate you can go on Vinted and we can do all that. But I do love a good charity shop.
I like going in there and having a nose around and having a shifty.
I take things in and I bring things back.
There you go.
Yes, recycling, darling, recycling.
I must tell you a quick story, though, about a lady that we all know, which I'm sure you know her as well. It's Tony McHale's wife, Jan McHale. He's a writer. So Jan is one of the best people on the planet. Right. Jan told me this story, that when her and Tony got married and moved into their first flat, she couldn't understand why the bathroom was dirty. And her mother said, well, aren't you cleaning it? And she went, do you have to? And she had lived, because her mum had always cleaned it, it was never dirty.
The fairies. The fairies.
And so she had never realised that it had to be cleaned.
It had to be.
My God. That is extreme.
And bathrooms. And when is the best time to clean your bathroom? When you're in it.
Yes.
When you're one of my ladies, I'll quickly, because I know you need to move on, but one of my ladies on Perfect Housewife, I counted 20, she had a terrible problem cleaning her bathroom. And I said, I walked into this bathroom, I said, I know why you have a problem cleaning this bathroom. There were 21 products that I counted around the bath, on shelves, all over the place. A nightmare to clean, because to clean it, you had to pick everything up, clean underneath it, put it down. 21 products. We don't need that much. Storage solutions in bathrooms. Bathrooms is a 15 minute job. And I keep in a box some cleaning things in the bathroom. Not that you can see them because they're not ornaments, and there's nothing worse than seeing the bleach bottle by the side of the toilet. I hate it. If anybody has got a bleach bottle by the side of the toilet now. And when you're in it, have a good old clean around. A few e-cloths, clean around. There you go. Spick and span. Marvellous. Done.
That's the name of the show, Spick and Span.
Done.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, Anthea, it's so lovely.
Thank you so much.
Darling. We want to see you again soon, please.
Lovely.
I can't wait to see you for a snuggle.
Oh, that would be
yes. Absolutely. Not very
I bought this the other day from Marks and Spencer's. Their cashmere's in. You have to get it really quickly.
Looks lovely.
The cheapest, best cashmere out there is Marks and Spencer's.
Right,
gorgeous colour, darling.
I've got to go now. I have to go and move my bleach from the lavatory. I'm so sorry. I've got to go.
Take a picture.
I'll send it
Bye,
to you.
darling.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Oh, she's lovely.
How wonderful. Oh, that's
Oh,
so
You know,
wonderful.
I've got to
Chicken
tell you,
fan.
somebody gave me a tip the other day for cleaning without spending very much money. So white vinegar and baking soda together.
Yes,
Do you know about that, Harriet?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And apparently it's fantastic. And so you put about half a bottle of white vinegar with and about half of the baking soda, but it's very, very cheap.
I think it needs a bit more measurements rather than half a thing. I don't know what that means. I think we need some specifics. So sort that out.
Yeah, well, I'll look into that.
Yeah,
next time.
Yeah. Have a good weekend, girls.
And you. Take care.
Bye, everyone. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.